Battle of Badr, the untold story of Badr. In the blistering sands of 7th century Arabia, a caravan loaded with riches was quietly making its way home, unaware that it was about to spark one of the most legendary battles in world history. But how did a humble merchant from Mecca become the commander of a revolutionary army? Why did the most powerful tribe in Arabia mobilize 1,000 warriors to crush a group of just 313 believers? And what happened when the Prophet Muhammad stood shoulder to shoulder with his men, ready to fight not just for survival, but for the soul of a nation? This is not just a story of swords and sand, it's a tale of divine conviction, espionage, tribal pride, and a battlefield where destiny itself seemed to choose sides. From dramatic duels to tactical brilliance, from torn shirts and bleeding camels to the final cry of victory, the Battle of Badr is the moment Islam stepped out of the shadows and into history. So grab your dates and waterskins, because we're diving deep into the intrigue, the strategy, and the spiritual firepower that turned a persecuted movement into a rising force. You won't believe how it all unfolded. Picture this. A 40-year-old merchant named Muhammad, known for his honesty and nicknamed Al-Amin, the Trustworthy, sits alone in the cave of Hira, just outside Mecca. No phone, no Wi-Fi, just silence and stars. He's meditating, reflecting on the chaos of Meccan society, idol worship, tribal feuds, and a moral compass spinning like a broken weather vane. Suddenly, the silence is shattered. The angel Gabriel appears, not with a gentle whisper, but with a command: read. Thus begins the revelation of the Quran, and Muhammad's transformation from merchant to messenger of God. Muhammad hailed from the Banu Hashim clan, a respected branch of the powerful Quraysh tribe. These folks weren't just local big shots. They ran the trade routes like Wall Street brokers with camels. Their caravans stretched from Yemen to Syria, and their influence reached into Mesopotamia and the Levant. Muhammad himself was a seasoned trader, navigating the bustling markets between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. His reputation for fairness made him the go-to guy for settling disputes. But now, he was preaching something radical: monotheism. At first, the Quraysh treated Muhammad like that eccentric uncle at family gatherings, amusing, but harmless. But as his message gained traction, things got tense. He condemned idol worship, warned of Judgment Day, and claimed that their ancestors were in spiritual hot water. Not exactly dinner table conversation. A few brave souls joined him, forming a tight-knit community bound by faith. But the Quraysh saw this as a threat, not just to their religion, but to their economy. The Kaaba, their sacred cash cow, drew pilgrims and their wallets. If Muhammad's monotheism caught on, their business model would collapse. The Quraysh tried everything, offering Muhammad a seat at the tribal high table, a lucrative marriage, and a PR makeover. He refused. Cue the persecution. His followers were tortured, exiled, and harassed. Assassins lurked in the shadows. Thankfully, Muhammad's uncle Abu Talib, leader of Banu Hashim, provided protection. But when Abu Talib died in 619, the gloves came off. The Prophet was now vulnerable, and the Quraysh sharpened their knives. In 615, Muhammad sent some followers to the Christian kingdom of Aksum, where King al-Nagashi offered refuge. But the real turning point came when tribes from Yathrib, later Medina, invited Muhammad to mediate their feuds and teach Islam. They pledged allegiance and became the Ansar, the helpers. Thus began the Hijra, the migration. Muslims fled Mecca, leaving behind homes, wealth, and memories. They arrived in Yathrib with nothing but faith and dust on their sandals. Muhammad himself escaped Mecca under cover of night, dodging assassins like a desert ninja. Yathrib became Madinat an-Nabi, the city of the Prophet. From this new base, Muhammad began planning raids on Meccan caravans. Why? Because the Quraysh had seized Muslim property and continued their persecution. The raids were both economic warfare and poetic justice. By 623, the desert was buzzing with spies and skirmishes. Muhammad's scouts reported a juicy target, a massive Quraysh caravan led by Abu Sufyan, the Darth Vader of Mecca. The Muslims mobilized 313 fighters, barely armed but burning with conviction. But Abu Sufyan wasn't born yesterday. He rerouted the caravan along the Red Sea coast, dodging the ambush like a seasoned chess master. Muhammad returned to Medina, but the game wasn't over, sent a full-blown army to protect their trade interests. Around 1,000 men, armed to the teeth, marched toward Badr. Muhammad had a choice, retreat or stand his ground. He chose the latter. In the dry valley of Badr, the Muslims lined up, dusty, determined, and outnumbered. They put their faith in Muhammad, the man who claimed to be the prophet of a new monotheistic religion. The Quraysh scoffed, but the Muslims believed. Now pause for a sec. Step into the extraordinary. Subscribe to Eccentric Digital Pixel. Welcome to the wild frontier of creativity, where pixels pulse with imagination and every frame tells a story you've never seen before. At Eccentric Digital Pixel, we don't follow trends, we bend reality. From surreal digital art to mind-blowing visual experiments, this is your backstage pass to the future of expression. Why hit subscribe? Get exclusive access to jaw-dropping digital creations. Be the first to witness new drops by turning on notifications. Dive into a world of eccentric brilliance that inspires, challenges, and captivates. Join a community of visionaries who crave the unconventional. Don't just scroll, experience the pixel revolution. Smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to never miss a masterpiece, because normal is boring, and you were born to see the world differently. Weeks after slipping past Muhammad's ambush, Abu Sufyan's caravan was living its best merchant life, trading silks, spices, and stories in Jerusalem, Damascus, and other Levantine hotspots. But as they turned south toward Arabia, their camels groaning under the weight of riches, the caravan became a glittering prize too tempting for the Muslims to ignore. Muhammad's scouts, sharp-eyed and saddle-sore, spotted the caravan and galloped back to Medina with news that would make any strategist salivate. They're loaded, they're slow, and they're coming home. But Abu Sufyan wasn't just a merchant, he was a master of desert chess. He had posted his own scouts along the southern roads, and they spotted the Muslim patrols slinking through the sand. The game was afoot. Sensing danger, Abu Sufyan pulled a classic move. He diverted the caravan from the main road, choosing a lesser-known path through the coastal wilderness. But he didn't stop there. He dispatched his fastest rider to Mecca, with instructions to make it dramatic. The rider arrived in Mecca like a man possessed. His shirt was torn, his camel was bleeding, don't worry, it was superficial, and his voice rang out like a war drum. The caravan is under attack. Your wealth is about to be looted. Now this wasn't entirely true. But in Mecca, where every merchant had a stake in that caravan, panic spread faster than a sandstorm. Within hours, 1,300 warriors were mobilized, swords sharpened, egos inflated, and the desert trembled under their march northward. Meanwhile, Muhammad realized that the caravan had once again slipped through his fingers. But he wasn't about to let the Quraysh off the hook. He marshaled his 313 warriors and headed south, hoping to intercept Abu Sufyan somewhere along the trade route. Too late. Abu Sufyan had already sent word that the caravan was safe. The Meccan army, now relieved, considered turning back. But then came Amr ibn Hisham, aka Abu Jahl, the Quraysh's top anti-Muhammad agitator and part-time drama king. Abu Jahl wasn't having it. If we turn back now, he thundered, we'll look like cowards. Muhammad expects a caravan, not an army. Let's surprise him and crush this rebellion once and for all. Most clan leaders nodded. About 300 warriors were convinced and turned back. But the remaining 1,000 Quraysh pressed on, their armor gleaming and their pride swelling like a desert mirage. As the Muslim army encamped in the valley of Badr, the heavens opened. Rain poured down, soaking the weary men but refreshing their spirits. Around the fire, Muhammad sat with his closest companions, Hamza, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Ali. The mood was tense. Then Miqdad stood up, voice firm. O Prophet, do what Allah commands, we will fight beside you. Sa'd of Medina added, even if you lead us into the sea, we will follow. Muhammad looked into the flames and declared, I can see the death of those disbelievers. The next morning, every Muslim was ready to die for the truth. At dawn, the Quraysh sent water-bearers to replenish their supplies. Surprise! The Muslims had filled in all the nearby wells. In the scorching Arabian sun, this was a tactical nightmare. Abu Jahl now had two choices, retreat in shame or fight in mud. Muhammad had chosen his ground wisely. His camp sat atop a sand dune. After the rain, the elevated soil dried quickly, giving his troops mobility. The Meccans, however, were stuck in wet silt, their horses slipping, their sandals sinking. Muhammad arrayed his 313 warriors in 3 tight lines at the narrowest point in the valley. They had just 2 horses and 70 camels. The Quraysh boasted 1,000 men, 100 horses, and 170 camels. But numbers weren't everything. Meccan scouts confirmed there were no ambushes. This was it. Muhammad and his men would fight to the last. Some Quraysh warriors hesitated. Arab battles were usually symbolic with few casualties. But Abu Jahl roared, "Honor demands blood." As dawn broke over the valley of Badr, the tension was thick enough to slice with a scimitar. From the Meccan ranks strode a warrior named Aswad ibn Abd al-Asad, a man so bold he declared he would drink from the Muslim well, or die trying. Spoiler, he got the latter. Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, Muhammad's uncle and a lion in human form, stepped forward. No words, just steel. As Aswad lunged, Hamza struck low, slicing through his leg like a butcher through lamb. Aswad collapsed, crawling toward the well like a parched beast. Hamza, not one for unfinished business, delivered the final blow. The well remained untouched. The Meccans, however, were boiling. Enraged by Aswad's demise, 3 Quraysh nobles emerged. Utbah, the seasoned warrior, Shaybah, his brother, and Al-Walid, his son. They were armored, shielded, and ready to make a statement. 3 Ansar from Medina stepped forward to meet them, but the Quraysh scoffed. "We didn't come to fight gardeners," they said. "We want the blood of the Muhajirun, Muhammad's kin." Cue the entrance of Hamza again, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ubaidah ibn al-Harith. The Prophet's family was ready to defend the faith. Ali, young and fierce, lunged at Al-Walid. One stroke, one scream, one body down. The battle began with duels, arrows, and a sandstorm of chaos. Muhammad reportedly threw a handful of dust toward the enemy, declaring, "May their faces be disfigured." The Meccan lines broke. 70 Quraysh warriors were killed, including key leaders like Abu Jahl. 70 more were captured. Hamza met Shaybah with the grace of a dancer and the force of a thunderclap. Shaybah fell. Ubaidah and Utbah clashed like titans, but Utbah struck hard, severing Ubaidah's leg. As he raised his sword for the final blow, Hamza charged and cleaved Utbah's neck. Ali and Hamza dragged their wounded cousin back to the Muslim line, where Ubaidah breathed his last. A martyr in the making. Abu Jahl, aka Hisham, humiliated by the duels, decided it was time to flex Meccan muscle. He ordered a full advance. Muhammad stood shoulder to shoulder with his men, not behind them. The first line lowered their spears and shields, forming a phalanx that would make a Roman general nod in approval. The Quraysh cavalry thundered toward the flanks. The Muslim center bent but didn't break. Reinforcements were sent. The line held. Dust rose, swords clashed, and then a lull. Knowing he had 3 times the men, Abu Jahl ordered another assault. The Muslims, aware they couldn't win a war of attrition, closed ranks and fought like lions. In the narrow pass between the ridges, the terrain favored the defenders. The Meccans charged, but the Muslims held firm. Again, the assault lost momentum. Again, the Meccans regrouped. Fresh Muslim fighters stepped up, replacing the fallen. The third Quraysh assault was chaos incarnate. Exhausted men stumbled, blades flashed, and the valley echoed with cries of pain and defiance. But the Muslims, outnumbered and outgunned, held the line. The Meccans, despite their cavalry and superior arms, were turned back once more. Muhammad saw it, the flicker of doubt in the enemy ranks. He signaled his warriors. "Now," he said, "charge." The Muslims surged forward. The Meccans, unable to match their resolve, broke ranks. Panic spread. Most fled. Some were captured. And then came the moment that would echo through history. The severed head of Abu Jahl was brought before the Prophet. Muhammad looked upon his old nemesis and said, "This is the pharaoh of this nation." The Battle of Badr wasn't just a military victory, it was a seismic shift. The Muslims, once mocked and hunted, were now political contenders. Muhammad's authority in Medina was solidified. The Quraysh, once the untouchable elite of Mecca, had been humbled. But the war was far from over. Abu Sufyan, ever the schemer, would continue the fight. Badr was merely the opening chapter in a 6-year saga of struggle, strategy, and spiritual resilience. Next up, Battle of Uhud. What happens when the victors of one legendary battle face the crushing weight of overconfidence? Why did the Muslims, fresh from their triumph at Badr, find themselves outmaneuvered and nearly defeated at the foot of Mount Uhud? Stay with us as we unravel the twists and turns of one of the most dramatic battles in Islamic history. If you love stories that blend history, drama, and divine destiny, Don't forget to follow us, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you never miss another epic tale from the sands of time. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next.